Welcome to Religion Story YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. Imagine a quiet small town where various religions live side by side. In one corner of the town stands an old mosque that has been a place of worship for Muslims for decades. On the other side lives a man around 30 years old, a Buddhist who was taught since childhood to live in peace and seek the true meaning of life. This man grew up as a peaceful person, diligent in meditation, and deeply respectful of his ancestral teachings. But behind his calm face, he harbors an unrest he cannot explain. He feels something is missing. Every day, he wonders about the purpose of life, what happens after death, and whether all of this is truly temporary. One afternoon, while walking aimlessly, he passes by the old mosque. The sky begins to darken. The Maghrib call to prayer has just ended. But his steps stop, not because of the call itself, but because of the voice of an elderly man inside the mosque reciting verses from the Quran. The recitation is not in a language he understands. Yet, there is something in the tone, rhythm, and calmness of the old imam's voice that touches his heart. For some reason, he gets goosebumps. His chest tightens but feels peaceful. His feet feel rooted to the spot. He stands for quite a while outside the mosque, listening without knowing what the verses mean. But his heart seems to know there is something sacred in that voice. From that day on, he comes almost every evening. Sitting outside the mosque's gate, just to listen to the imam's recitation. Until one day, the imam notices his presence and invites him inside. That meeting changes everything. They sit together inside the mosque. Patiently, the imam begins to explain the meanings of the verses he recited. The Buddhist man listens silently, but tears start to flow without his realizing. He feels as if the questions he has long kept one by one are answered, not by logic, but by the tranquility enveloping his heart. Months pass. He starts reading translations of the Quran, secretly learning about Islam. He does not want to rush. But his heart is certain. One Ramadan night, he returns to the mosque and meets the old imam. With a trembling voice, he says, "I don't know why that voice touched me so deeply. But I know I have found what I have been searching for. I want to declare the Shahada." That night, before the imam and a few worshippers, he utters the 2 sentences of the Shahada. Tears of joy break out. A man born and raised in another faith now chooses Islam not out of coercion or persuasion, but because of a voice that knocked on the door of his soul. Since that day, his life changes. He still upholds the peaceful values he learned before, but now his heart is calmer. He begins to teach others that guidance can come from unexpected places, even from a voice that sounds as if it came from the heavens. After the night of his Shahada, the man who once only listened from outside the mosque gate now became part of the prayer rows. He began learning to read the Quran, little by little. Every morning, he came to the mosque before dawn to accompany the old imam, who had now become like a spiritual father to him. But the path of guidance is not always smooth. One evening, while about to break his fast at the mosque, his phone rang. It was his mother calling with a tense voice. Apparently, news about his change was starting to spread. Without explanation, his family asked him to come home. At home, the atmosphere was cold. His mother stared at him for a long time, his father remained silent. They were not angry, that was what made his heart ache. They only said, "We don't understand why you abandoned what we taught you since childhood." Calmly and respectfully, he did not argue. He answered softly, "I am not abandoning the goodness you taught me. I have only found the peace I have long sought. This religion does not erase my love and respect for you. It strengthens it." They did not immediately accept it. But from the way he behaved, from the calmness on his face, they knew their child was going through something great and real. Time passed. The old imam's health began to decline. His age showed more and more. One day, after far prayer, the imam called him. With a weak but clear voice, he said, Son, you came because of my voice. But know this, that was not my voice. Those were the verses of Allah speaking to your soul. Now, it's your turn to deliver that voice to others. Those words shook him. He who once sat outside the gate was now asked to speak inside the mosque. He felt unworthy. Yet night after night, he began leading small study circles. Not with lofty language or complicated religious terms. He told stories. About his search. About his unrest. About the peace he found when the voice of the Quran touched his soul. People began coming. Not just Muslims. Some old friends from other faith backgrounds came, initially out of curiosity. But some of them wept in the middle of the story. He did not invite, but his heart invited. On the night of Laylatul Qadr, the mosque was full. The old imam could no longer stand. He sat in a wheelchair, listening to his students' recitation, the Buddhist man who had now become a role model in the mosque. With a soft but powerful voice, he recited the verse that once changed his life. Allah guides whom He wills to a straight path. The imam smiled, tears falling. That night, he closed his eyes for the last time. In peace. In light. And in certainty that the voice had found its successor. Guidance comes from unexpected directions. Sometimes through logic, sometimes through pain. But sometimes, it comes through a voice. And when Allah wills to guide someone, one verse is enough to change a whole life. The days after the old imam's passing were difficult for the man. The mosque felt silent, as if it had lost its soul. The man who once found solace outside the mosque gate was now gone. But the imam's legacy did not disappear, it began to grow within him. Every day, he sat where the imam used to sit. Not to replace him because he knew he never could, but to continue on, albeit with unsteady steps. He began leading halakha sessions, opening small gatherings, not as a great scholar, but as a companion in the search. He taught the Quran with a heartfelt approach. He did not urge people to change immediately. He simply shared his journey, and how one voice had shaken his entire life. One day, a young man came to the mosque. His demeanor was hesitant. He sat in a corner, silent. His face seemed to be wrestling with the world. After the gathering ended, the new Muslim approached him. "I don't know why I came here," the young man said. "I feel my life is empty. I was born Muslim, but I never really believed." The man smiled and replied, "I was born outside Islam, but my heart was drawn in by a voice I can't explain." "You were born inside Islam, maybe you just need to hear it again." That night, they sat together. He slowly recited verses from the Quran. Not preaching. Not judging. Just reciting. And when he read Surah Ad-Duha about Allah's promise to the soul that feels abandoned, the young man wept. For the first time in his life, he prostrated fully aware. In the days that followed, the young man became his student. He was neither the first nor the last. Several months later, he received news that his mother was ill. He returned home with a calm but worried heart. At home, his mother lay weak. His father greeted him coldly but did not reject his presence. Beside her bed, he sat holding his mother's hand. She looked deeply into his eyes, then said, "My son, I once feared losing you. But now, I see you are not lost, you have returned. Gentler, more patient, filled with light. If that is because of your faith, then I am no longer afraid." He held back tears. Could not say a word. That night, for the first time, he recited the Quran at home. Slowly. With the same voice that once touched his heart. Now, his mother listened quietly and cried. Years passed. He became known as a teacher of life. Not because of his vast knowledge, but because of the way he conveyed Islam, with love, not anger. With embraces, not fingers pointed. He was invited to many places not for grand lectures, but to share stories. One night, He sat alone in the old mosque where it all began. He looked up at the ceiling, then closed his eyes. Suddenly, the old imam's voice seemed to return in his memory. The verses that once touched his soul now felt like they came from within himself. He smiled. "Thank you, teacher, your voice never truly left. Now, it lives in all our hearts." That light once came to him in the form of a voice. Now, that light flows from him as love. Guidance is not only about changing beliefs, but about finding direction when we have been lost even within our own faith.